Zara's six-fingered hands trembled as she scraped the last remnants of kibble from the metal bowl. The taste was bitter, artificial, but her empty stomach had long since stopped caring about dignity. 3 days without food on this strange world, called Earth, and the pet food left outside the small dwelling had seemed like a gift from the void itself. Her azure skin had dulled to a sickly pale blue, and her normally luminescent markings flickered weakly along her temples. The universal translator embedded in her collar, standard issue for refugees, buzzed with low battery warnings that she ignored. What use were words when no one wanted to listen? The Corvani had lost everything when their home world fell to the plague. Those lucky enough to escape had scattered across the galaxy, begging for sanctuary wherever they could find it. Earth had been Zara's last hope, but the human authorities had deemed her economically non-viable for standard immigration. Now she existed in the shadows of their cities, invisible and forgotten. A droplet of rain struck her forehead, followed by another. Soon the sky opened up in earnest, sending Earth's strange water cascading down in sheets. Zara pressed herself against the building's wall, watching humans hurry past with their colorful umbrellas and waterproof clothing. None of them spared her a glance. "Hey there." The voice was gentle, cautious. Zara looked up to see a human female crouched a few feet away, brown eyes filled with something that looked almost like concern? The woman appeared middle-aged by human standards, wearing simple clothes that had seen better days. In her hands, she held a steaming container. "You hungry?" the woman asked, her words automatically translated by Zara's collar. Zara's throat constricted. She wanted to speak, to explain, but shame rendered her mute. Instead, she simply nodded. The woman, who introduced herself as Maria, didn't ask questions about Zara's species or legal status. She didn't demand documentation or payment. Instead, she opened the container and revealed something that made Zara's remaining strength nearly abandon her. Hot soup, rich with vegetables and what appeared to be synthetic protein chunks designed for non-human dietary requirements. "I work at the refugee center downtown," Maria explained as she handed over the container along with a spoon. "Heard there might be folks like you who fell through the cracks. Been walking these streets for days, looking." Zara's hands shook so violently she nearly dropped the precious meal. The first spoonful hit her system like liquid starlight, warm, nourishing, and prepared with a care that spoke of genuine compassion rather than mere obligation. "Why?" Zara finally managed to whisper, her voice hoarse from disuse. Maria sat down beside her, apparently unconcerned about the rain or her proximity to an alien stranger. "My grandmother used to tell me about when she came to this country. Said she spent her first week here eating scraps, sleeping in doorways. Someone helped her then, a complete stranger who didn't speak her language but recognized hunger when they saw it." As Zara continued eating, Maria began making calls on her communication device. Within an hour, 2 more humans arrived. A tall man named David, who worked in immigration law, and an elderly woman called Professor Chen, who specialized in xenobiology. Neither seemed surprised to find Maria sitting in the rain with a starving Corvani. "We've been trying to track you down for weeks," David explained apologetically. "There was an error in your paperwork. Someone filed you as unlocated when you were actually approved for asylum. You have legal status here, you just got lost in the system." Professor Chen had brought medical supplies specifically designed for Corvani physiology. "Your people's biochemistry is fascinating," she said as she ran a scanner over Zara's malnourished form. "We've been developing better food programs for refugees from your sector. Would you be willing to help us test some recipes?" Within 3 hours, Zara found herself in a warm apartment, provided through a rapid response housing program that she'd never known existed. Her fridge was stocked with foods that wouldn't just sustain her, but were actually appealing to her palate. Her legal documents were being expedited, and she had appointments scheduled for both medical care and job placement assistance. But it was the memory of that first spoonful of soup that stayed with her. Not just the food itself, but the human who had spent her own time and resources searching dark streets for strangers in need. As Zara settled into her new bed that night, she activated her communication console and began composing a message to the Corvani Refugee Network. The message was simple but profound. Earth designation, updated. Humanity classification, unexpected. Individual assessment. They find us when we're lost. Across the galaxy, her message would reach others who had given up hope, others who had resigned themselves to existing on the margins. They would read about humans who organized search parties for people they'd never met, who created systems to catch those who fell through cracks, who recognized that sometimes the difference between despair and hope was as simple as a bowl of soup offered without conditions. The rain continued to fall outside Zara's new window, but inside, she was warm and fed and no longer invisible. Tomorrow, she would begin the process of rebuilding her life. But tonight, she simply marveled at a species that could be bureaucratically indifferent and simultaneously individually extraordinary. Humans who would spend their evenings walking in the rain, looking for hungry strangers to feed. In the vast cosmos, where species were often judged by their technological achievements or military might, humanity's true strength revealed itself in the smallest acts. The willingness to see suffering and respond with kindness, to recognize that every being deserved dignity, and to understand that civilization was measured not by its grandest structures, but by how it treated its most vulnerable members.